Hello and welcome everyone to the Spartan 5 Program podcast. We've had many iterations of this. It's never been quite a routine thing for us to do, but we are back more with just some updates on what is going on in the Spartan 5 program, what we should expect for the future, and seeing just basically talking it out. So my name's Garrett O'Toole, aka Toolscast, aka Spartan 5 program number 2 chair, and I am joined with Nicholas Brooks, aka the Spartan 5 program founder.
It's an important time for this podcast and for us to be discussing what's going to be coming up these next few months. I know that Infinite is currently delayed somewhat indefinitely. Talking about 2021. Talking about maybe 2022. And regardless of what time Infinite comes out, there are some things that I think we'd like to see change for the Spartan 5 program. Regardless of when that is going to happen, we have an idea about what we want to do differently, what we want to do better, how we want to improve.
Right.
So, Gary, I think chat's saying I'm a little low, so if you could raise me.
Okay, I'll do that. So,
also, big challenge just because I got done with a long run before we did this, so a little low on the energy department.
This is relaxed, Brooks. Relaxed,
big
Brooks. Guys, we weren't able to do an audio check before we got in, so
chat says we're good.
Let us know if any other audio problems arise. Like you said, right? That's the big point of discussion is like what SVP is going to look like in the future, and how we're going to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of Halo esports, and how we can better improve our players and make a beneficial and an impactful group of people for Halo esports. I think that's.
You want to talk about this now? Do you want to start here?
No, I say we're gonna wrap back to it. I just want to say that's the main foundation, right? So that's what we're really gonna be hammering on today. But let's get some of the more not quite newsworthy stuff out of the way. We are opening up admin positions in Spartan 5 program. I don't know if that's the correct way to label it. I'll let you go more into it, Brooks, but why don't you let everyone know what's going on that department?
I think we could wrap back to that a little bit when we talk more about the planning and some of the things that need to change, some of the things that we need to do better as a program. I think those two things go hand in hand. So I think we'll come back to that.
All right. Well, then I guess we should talk about what happened last week with the NAHL season wrapped up. Coaches and our Division 2 weren't quite able to make it, unfortunately.
Hardly. Very, very unfortunately. That was uncharacteristic that we weren't able to. Yeah, I mean, SvP prides itself on making its. We're like the best, like most punctual folks in the Halo community. So for us to not be able to field our teams as expected for a tournament like that had a date on it was very atypical, but we also had an atypical amount of things happen to us with that. Hunter, like his entire town, was losing power and internet regularly over the course of several weeks, which is like crazy. I think Zoc and Stu were ready to roll. Derek got like called into work for like mandatory overtime, where basically they told him something crazy. Like
I don't want to cut you off, but that that's a rookie mistake right there. You do not answer when your boss calls.
I told him, man. I told him
that is a rookie mistake.
I know, man. I told him. So he had that going on. Bobsky's a music teacher, and he was getting ready for the semester to start, and he's trying to teach music, but his instrument broke earlier that week. So he had to go drive like 6 hours to the only dude who's able to fix it, and he couldn't do that during the week because he was working. So we had to do that on Saturday, and he was like he was one of the 3 reserves that we had for the D2 squad, you know?
Right.
Like that was crazy. I think Crusher would have been able to make it, and then Paul maybe like unexpectedly had some people in town or something.
That being said,
so it was really crazy that we weren't able to field our D2 team for that. They would have done really well. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't get that opportunity. I feel bad for Stu, who led those guys the entire season, but I know wanted to compete with them. It would have been a really good opportunity for them, but you know, things happen, life happens. We're a group of people in the Halo community who understand, you know, that there are actually things in life that take precedence over whatever your rank is or however much clout you have on Twitter or whatever other crap is going on. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Right. I mean, it should be pointed out that we had no forfeitures for our team throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
props
definitely.
to the D2 players for coming in. Like,
Yeah,
you
we're
guys
awesome.
came in clutch week in, week out. It was unfortunate what happened during the playoffs. And, I mean, we were excited to see how well the D2 could perform during playoffs because I think the trio of Sinister, Blue Houses, and Volunteer, aka Derek,
Crush too.
Paul.
Crush belongs on that squad.
Oh no, absolutely. I was just saying
that
they were the main three that were playing most weeks. I think just having that foundation, and then like I said, Crusher, I believe full-heartedly deserves to be right there with them. And I think you could fill in any of those reserves players, and those three players just elevate the players that play around them. I think especially when we're talking about Crusher, I think we didn't give him enough love because we're going to talk about the end of the year awards for NAHL. I think he is definitely an honorable mention. I think Crusher's been doing so much to improve recently, and I think he's a player that goes in and he helps others succeed. I think that's what we really want to have players doing in the future. But that being said, the Division 1, aka the four main coaches that were playing in the Division 1, we took third place. I don't know if we're quite happy with our placing. I think we definitely left a lot of meat on the bone.
I think that we're a better team than the teams that beat us. With the team that got first place, we lost in game 5 by 5 kills, and definitely we're not playing our best. Didn't have a lot of time to practice leading up to game time. And then the team that beat us in the losers bracket, we 3-0'd them pretty easily earlier on in the tournament. We should have beat them game 5.
Right, and unfortunate things perspired, right? And it's like we expected more of ourselves. I think we still played higher than our expectations at points, and then we kind of reverted back to our old ways at different points. I think having a substantial break in the middle definitely didn't help us. But that being said, we have to be able to get on and execute every single time we're playing. And I think that's just a reminder for every player that's watching right now is that we still have improvement that we need to work on ourselves, and especially when it comes to working as a unit. Because I believe full-heartedly that the coaches have some of the best communication, some of the best teamwork out of anyone that regularly plays Halo 5, especially as just a team of 4 unit. I think it's really hard pressed to find someone that can come in and just have fluid communication. I think it started in our first best of 5 in the winners when we got knocked out. We were having a rough first couple games, and then we came in game 3. We're like, hey, what are we doing? We fixed on the communication. We said we're going to focus on making sure our communication is the best because that's where we know we're the best. We came out, we won our strongholds 100-3. It was the smoothest game we had all night, and then we went in, win the next game, and then unfortunately just did not play as we expected in the Slayers, and that was unfortunate. But I think it just shows, we have stuff to work on, and I think we're actively working on those things, and that's why I think we have a lot to teach players, but a lot that players can still, we should be role models to the players about how we should approach the game and how you should be trying to improve.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that there's 2 aspects to our game that are important to talk about. One of them is our knowledge, our game knowledge and our actual innate ability. Not innate ability like born with ability, but our potential, our ceiling, right? I think that our ceiling has increased over time, and I think that when we're all playing well and we're executing properly, we perform extremely well and we can compete with a lot of the better folks who are still playing Halo 5. But for most of us that are only able to play a couple hours a week, we run into issues with the other side of the game, which is the execution side. I think that we lack in the consistency department because we don't get the amount of reps that we need regularly, the amount of reps that a lot of the other folks in the community that we're competing against are having. So I mean, it's difficult to find that level of consistency in our execution without being able to spend more time on the sticks. And Strally by no means is one of those guys who's playing as a full-time job, but he plays more than you, me, and Josh, and we see how much of a beast he is and how consistent he is game in and game out. And that comes with just having that little bit of more playtime. If you, Josh, and myself had a little more time leading up to the tournament, or even a little more week to week, I think that we'd find a higher level of consistency. But you work with what you have, right? And you talk about being a role model for our players. A lot of our players are in a similar position as us, where they don't have an infinite amount of time to play each week. They're going to have a couple hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, and you have to make the most out of that time. And the more that you can increase your ceiling and the more that you can raise your floor and nip the mistakes that you make in the bud and like make them less and less and less, it raises the floor for how bad you could possibly play. So as long as we're continuing to be mindful about our reps and the time that we are able to play, we can continue to raise our ceiling and our floor so that we can, I mean, we're still going to have variability in our performance, which is unfortunate as guys who want to compete and get better and show that we're better than the people that we're playing against. But all in all, it's going to lead to better performance over time, which is, I think, our long-term goal, right? That's what we want for ourselves.
Absolutely. I think it's always important that, right, we try to pride ourselves on setting short-term goals and long-term goals. And I think we're definitely on the road and making time expectations. Like, we're on time when it comes to our long-term goals. I think we're succeeding in that way. Sometimes I think we have problems executing well on our short-term goals, where we're just going to come in this week and work on this specific thing. That's something that we're going to work on. But I like what you brought up with Strally, because I think that's a good segue into our next, what we're going to talk about with the NAHL, which was our end of year awards. Yes. So the NAHL decided to have superlative. Ooh, I cannot say that word. Yeah, there we go. That it gets in my mouth, guys. But we had to make some decisions, and I think we were happy with our decisions. For Division 1, especially Strally, most improved player by far. I think we can really see the work that he put in throughout the season, the work that he put in week in, week out, his consistency, honestly, Strally week 1 to Strally playoff weekend was just such a massive improvement. And
much smarter player. The gun skill's there the whole season, no doubt, but right. I think that Strally end of season is a smarter player and a better teammate.
Right, and I think what's important to point out is that not every player learns the same way, and I think Strally is a great indicator, and the coaches, of just someone who learns differently. Right, he's not your, what we think of as a traditional coach, and the idea that he's going to go sit down and watch film and then execute on that film. I would say I'd classify him as a grinder. He's a guy that improves when he plays with better players. I think it showed because he found the lobbies with the best possible players. He went and played in them consistently, and he learns by doing, and he did it. And I think we saw, especially as coaches, as players that play with him so much, that we just saw his improvement, just a tremendous gain in the Halo department throughout the entire season. And we were going to make him MVP, but then we had a discussion about where Josh sat. And I think Josh was our MVP nomination, because he has so much going on in his life right now, and the fact that he could consistently show up for us, play consistently well for us, and he always brings in that nice vibe that we need, that kind of balances us. And so we gave him the MVP for Division 1. I think with him having a new child, and Henry was already there, I think it was just it was actually absolutely clutch that Josh was able to come in every week.
Showing up for us week in and week out while being able to manage his responsibilities and be a proper damn good father to his children and a good husband. That exemplifies everything that we're about. So, I mean, I think it's pretty easy for us to discuss that and find Josh as our MVP and Strally as most improved. Those things make a lot of sense to both of us.
Right, absolutely. I think we didn't have much of a problem deciding who our MVP and most improved was. And I think that rings true for our Division 2 as well.
D2 as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Division 2 MVP Volunteer, like we said, he really led that group. He was the vocal leader. He was the leader when it came to just play time in general. He definitely is that end game leader when they are playing. And I think he oversaw the improvement of so many of our players in the Division 2.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely also, unfortunately, for Stu, to a level of detriment to himself. By no means do I want the players that played with Stu or any of the players in the program to feel like they're drags or anything on us when we're trying to play. But I do think that the objective prior to the season, prior to competing in NAHL this season, our objective as coaches were to come in and compete. And our plan was to run a coach squad, D1, D2, all coaches, and then whatever room we had left over was going to be for players to play with us as teammates. And I think that what ended up happening is that the mentality of the Division II squad, not really purposefully, but kind of just by incident, changed a little bit. And I think that we turned it into a little more about player development. So like Stu and Paul were not there week in and week out. Crusher and Senny, like they had weeks that they took off. I wanted all four of those guys to be playing week in and week out and compete. And I think that's what Stu was looking for as well. And the only reason that Stu and Paul were on the D2 squad versus the D1 squad wasn't because they wanted to compete less and wasn't because they were looking to develop the players any more than we were looking to. They just had a little more availability. And we wanted that flexibility with them of being able to play on the D2 squad as well as compete on the D1 squad. So it's unfortunate that for Stu, I know he really, really wanted to compete, and we didn't really carry that mindset through for our D2 squad for the whole season. But Stu kind of rolled with what he was dealt, and he looked for those opportunities to help the players get better and manage his own expectations in order to give those players that opportunity to get better and compete and enjoy that, right?
No, I think he adapted extremely well to the situation that he was put in.
I mean, that's what Stu does. Stu's literally, I think, the best teammate day in and day out that any of us could ask for, and he's always willing to, put himself off the sticks and on the sticks, like in the line of fire for his teammates to, be better or get more out of what they're doing.
Right, so. And I think the structure of the league definitely played a part into like what happened with the D2, and that's not to say like you could easily put Stu and Paul and replace just us two in Division 1, and we'd probably perform similarly, if not the same or better. I mean, we're all just around that same level. So just because they were in Division 2,
we had at least 6 D1 players on our team.
Right, we stole the draft. I mean, let's be honest. Like we had the best team on paper, and I think that's why it stings so much to us that we weren't able to execute and take home that first place prize. But that being said, new players that came in. So we Division 2 most improved player, a player that we met through the Greater Toronto Halo tournament, and then later recruited into the SvP program. Hazawk absolutely has just been making tremendous gains throughout the last couple months, and I think it was exemplified in Division 2 gameplay throughout the entire season.
Zach's gotten a lot better over the course of the season. He's always the first guy to, like, when you think about that, like, scrappy little dude who's going to start picking fights with, like, any dude, regardless of what size, and he's just ready to scrap with whoever's in front of him. Zach's ready to do that in the name of getting better, and I don't think that he's intimidated by players that are better than him. He understands that in order to grow, you're going to need to compete, and you need to play against and with people who are better than you, and you need to learn from that, right? That's like not... You can learn at a comfortable pace and like learn without getting your ass kicked, but it's going to take forever. And Zach is a man on a mission. He wants to get as good as he can, as fast as possible, and get everything that he can out of the games that he's playing. So he's always the first to volunteer. He's real eager to play. He's eager to learn. He wants to do what he can to help his team perform. And I think that it was pretty easy for us to call Zach the most improved player. The dude has not been playing a Halo a long time, and he is growing increasingly quickly.
I think the mindset that he brought into what Halo is, I think is a mindset that guides you to success in anything that you do in your life, right? He finds the experts and he tries to just learn by osmosis as much as possible, right? He gets into those lobbies as much. He's actively trying to set up film reviews after he doesn't have a game that he likes, or if he just felt as if he didn't quite understand what was going on. And I think that's important. I think he will quickly become one of those players that people look up to for advice, people that look up to figure out how to get better, how to become the grinder, and how to just improve in all things, whether it be something in your life or something within Halo. I think he's a great example of that, and one of the best additions. I mean, that should be said that we've had amazing additions. I don't think we've had one person that we've added within the last half year that hasn't just absolutely performed for us and is the ideal player. But I think Hazawk embodies what it means to be a part of our community.
Yeah, definitely glad about having him, having Hunter, Eli probably in the last half a year. Babesky came on in recently. Really happy about him. The last group that we came in, Red Bear, Voodoo, Nate, Watermelon Woman came on in. Like, all of these folks are really good additions to the program. Happy about them and their time here. I wish that the planning and the renovations and things were happening a little bit faster. That way we can keep them, going on their way. But I'm happy about having them here, and I hope they've enjoyed being here. Found some opportunities so far to grow and understand the resources that are available for them. But yeah, really, really happy with our additions in the last half year or so. So hopefully we'll continue to see them grow. And as we move into the future and get some new additions to the program, these folks who have come in the last half year have set the bar for what we're looking for. I think in our players, it's a good representation of what we want.
I think that's a great way to describe SpartanVProgram program or SVP, is that we expect us to set the standard for what it means to be a community in Halo. We set the bar high, and we can execute well, but sometimes that just falls under our expectations, and we always expect the most. And I think, like I said, I think the newest players that we've added, they set the bar high for what we expect out of our players, and I think that's not a bad thing, right? We expected them to set the bar high, and that's why they're here. And honestly, it's just been such a great improvement that I've seen throughout everyone in the community. But guys, I think you touched on it, Brooks, is that we feel as if we're not able to give as much as we possibly can to our community, right? And I think that's why we're launching into our new planning for SvP2. Yes. And laying the groundwork now to set that up for the future. We started with our website, which launched recently and has been proven to be something that we should have done years ago, because it's worked wonders. And we've had such an influx of players that have been trying to come into the program. We've had
even more applying than we've been bringing in.
Yeah.
Like there was 1 week, I think, where we had like 10 or 11 applications or something, which is pretty crazy.
Which leads us to, say, like, these other ideas that we've had and haven't quite started on, we want to start on. And I think I'll let you have the time to start talking about what we expect from SvP2, how we're going to execute on providing whatever plans that we set up to bring them to life, and what SVP is going to look like when Infinite comes, whenever it does come.
So I think that when we talk about what we're looking to change and what we're looking to add to the program moving forward, it's important to discuss where we are now and how we feel about that. Because the things that are going to change because of how we feel about what's going on right now, where we've been, how we're doing. So, Gary, in your opinion, how do you feel about where we've been so far and where we're at now? And how does that relate to you? So where you think we should go?
I think this is an opinion shared by many of the coaches, is that for the last couple of years, I think we got content with where we were, and that we started coasting on what we were doing. And we turned less into what we envisioned for us to be, and just became just a nice community of people that like each other, right? And I think recently we started putting in genuine effort to change that. And, it takes effort, right? Because, like, from where we were in the beginning, right? And I know a lot of people that are here now weren't here for the founding, right? I think we've had just a large influx of players that have come and gone, and we loved every single person that's come here. But what SvP looked like in the beginning to what it looked like 2 years ago to what it's going to look like in the future has always been just so different. We've always been just a soft thing of clay that we mold into what we feel as if we need to be at the time. And I think it's getting to the point where we think change is necessary for us to continue on with the success that we believe we'll have in the future. And I think when it comes to, like, my personal growth, I think SvP has always been the catalyst for it. And I definitely think that putting SvP first and putting in my time to make SvP as best as I can will pay for me in the end when it comes to my personal development. And that's why I believe that I think we're going with our changes that we're going to be implementing soon. I think is largely it's selfless and selfish, right? It's for us to improve as individuals and to see this program become more of a power in the Halo community as a whole.
It's been a long time that I've had conflicted feelings about how things have been going with the program. I think starting that couple of years ago, as we saw people kind of start to lose interest with growing in H5 and trying to like wait for infinite. I think that was a time where we started to ease off the gas pedal a little bit. I think that we were concerned with things like player burnout and like trying to walk that line between pushing them to continue to get better as time went on, balancing that with how we're trying to grow ourselves and what our path as players looks like for ourselves and how we want to grow. So a couple of years ago, I think that we kind of eased off that gas pedal a little bit. I think that we forewent any type of serious structure or any type of structured regiment for the players, regimen for the players. Um, we stopped doing that. We didn't want the players to get burned out. We wanted it to be a little more player guided. We wanted people to be a little more in charge of their own development and understanding that we were just like there for them. I think that we also had life stuff going on where we needed to focus on what we were doing. We couldn't afford that extra time to like be trying to pull players along. And I think that um, what it's like running the program since the start. This is, I mean, you've always been my right hand, Gary, but it's the people who have been here from the start understand that this is very much like a benevolent dictatorship. I do things how I want to do things, and I'm gonna like talk to you guys. I'm gonna talk to players. I'm gonna talk to the coaches. I'm gonna see how people feel. But ultimately, I'm gonna do what I think is right. And the folks who are here are going to be here, and they're going to be not that they're forced to be on board with what I have going on. I just think that the folks who are here and have stayed here over time have seen me make those decisions in crucial times. And like I've seen how they went and they followed me there and they continue to follow me because they see how I make those decisions and they feel good about where it leads us. And the way that I make those decisions isn't any crazy like pros and cons list. I don't have any sort of like analysis system where I like draw all this stuff up and I make those decisions. I just follow my gut. That's how I make my most difficult decisions. And sometimes the thing that I need to do to allow my gut to make those decisions is just to give things time and let them sort out in the back of my mind. So this is something that even though we're talking about it now, we're talking about SvP2 now, we're talking about our renovations now. These are things that have been brewing in the back of my mind for a while based on feelings that I've been having for a long time. And I think that I only was able to most recently, I think the earliest time that I was able to articulate my feelings more was probably only a couple of months ago. I'd say like 2 or 3 months ago. When I was having a nice late night date with Beef Stew. And we were talking about the program. We're talking about where we were at. And I was telling him about the conflicted feelings that I was having. You know, I felt like our players were, as a whole, not sharing the vision of some of the individual coaches. Like for us, we don't care that Halo 5 has been out since, October, November of 2015, because for us, it's not about what's playing new and shiny. It's about competitive Halo. It's about why we like competitive Halo specifically. And it's about being better than we were yesterday and understanding that there's still so much room for us to grow. That's what it's about for us. This is like a field of competition where we have room to grow. Like it's not about playing what's new, right? For us, the game is so deep that we are able to play this game for 5 years and continue to do so happily. And we're not satisfied with that, right? We're able to keep playing it. But there are players who don't share that same love for it and they're like waiting for infinite after they played Halo 5 for like 2 years, right? And I don't know how I feel about that. There are plenty of good players, like people that I like, just good people who share that opinion. And I didn't know how to feel about managing those people who don't share that same feeling that you and me and some of the other coaches share about that long-term improvement. What do I do with those guys when the new game comes out, right? Do I keep those guys in a program where we only have a limited number of spots that we could have for them just to give up the game after 2 years because it's not shiny anymore? It's like, how do I match my feelings about these guys like being good people against what I think about them in terms of like what I want for a player in the program. Um, So like I had conflicted feelings about that. I think that there's some like administrative ways that we could be more efficient and better off. I don't think that the players do as good of a job providing for themselves and like being their like an advocate of their own growth as much as they could be, and I don't think that we give them enough resources. I don't think that we empower them as much as we could to go do that. You don't know what you don't know, and I think that we could do more in helping them be independent in their journeys. So that's something that we're discussing, and that's something that we're trying to resolve. Trying to make sure that the players don't burn themselves out, making sure that they're growing at a proper rate over time is something that's important to us. So like that player retention, that player growth over time, that's something that I think that we have plans to improve upon. I think that we can do that. We have plans to do that, like specific things that we think will be helpful in doing that. That's something that needs to change. I think that's something that we could do better as a program in. I think that we could. There are a lot of things about being a leader like that thankfully come naturally to me and have gone well. But one of my weakest points as a leader is my relative inability to delegate. Relative to the other things that I can do as a leader, I don't delegate as effectively or as frequently as I should. And for me to put as much time and dedication into my career, into my training, into my personal growth as a player, into the program, into my relationships with my other friends and family, like I am busy all the time. It is not abnormal for me to have a 19-hour day and to like not think anything of it. For me just to power through that. And for me to do everything that I do and for me to like whole ass multiple things in my life, I need to be more efficient about how I use my time. And for the Spartan 5 program specifically, I can save time by hold on one second. Hey babe. Are you talking to somebody? Sorry, it's like distracting. I can. Yeah, it's okay. Could you just like?
I can't
Thanks.
fix this hot mic, guys.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. So, um, sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
So for me to be more efficient about the time, right? Like there are certain tasks that I do in administrating the Spartan 5 program that don't need to be done by me. We have plenty of wonderful people, players and coaches alike in the program who are more than capable of doing some of the individual tasks that I have to do in order to run the program. So by having more people involved with the things that need to be taken care of in order for us to run the program in a way that is proper and rich and efficient and like valuable, the more things that I can have other people in the community help out with, the easier it is for me to focus on some of the higher level things in the program that I need to focus on. It allows me to focus more on the actual coaching of the players, which is something that I don't get to do as much as I would like to. And just for the players and coaches as well, like I think that's something that was a mistake to start with, is relying on the coaching staff to be an administrative staff. That's not exactly what they signed up for, and I don't think that they should. Just because they're available to help the players learn and grow doesn't mean that they have even less time to help out with extra stuff because I'm asking them to fulfill that role, right? And there's no reason that there are like there are members in the community who are more than capable of helping out with a variety of things. So and it's really good for them as well, just to, if they're able to contribute, it allows them to have that level of ownership in the community and gives them like that level of satisfaction in knowing that they're helping us out, right? They're helping us make that difference that they feel and the difference that they see in their cohorts in the program. They get to help out that like they get to play an important role in that, and one that is very valuable to the program, that I really, really appreciate. Um, so like it is extremely helpful when folks are volunteering for the various things that we need help with. And if we have each person take on like one specific role that's going to take 15 or 30 minutes of their time once every week or every 2 weeks or whatever, like we can do a lot of shit together without a substantially more like amount of work, without a substantial more amount of work than what we're doing. It's a force multiplier to have multiple people involved and specialize in just doing one role, right? Like if you think about the different types of events that we want to do monthly or bi-monthly or whatever, like podcasts, fight nights, 8 sessions, coaching sessions, like community film sessions, player versus coaches scrims. These are all things that we've done previously. But for me and you to focus on scheduling all of those things regularly, weekly, monthly, whatever, that's crazy. It takes a lot of time for us to do that. It takes a lot of time for us to coordinate that. If instead we had 8 players who all focused on a different event and scheduled that themselves, like to do that once every 6 weeks, once every 8 weeks, and that was the only event that they had to worry about scheduling, that is significantly less work for you and I to do. I think that we're going to see those events more frequently. It's going to give people more opportunities to grow and play with their program mates, right? Like there is just so many good things that can come with that. Like there's a higher level of consistency, a higher level of quality that can come with that. They can specialize in those specific events and understand like what people want to do differently about those events, and they can spend that extra time to workshop those things. And the more that we're able to delegate some of these tasks and rely on some of the great members that we have in the program to do those things, the better off we're going to be. So, I mean, that's something that needs to change both for you and I to continue doing what we need to be doing well, and also for the program to like see higher levels of vitality.
Yeah, I was just gonna expand upon that when you so right off the start when you said like you see yourself as a benevolent dictator, and I think that's fair to an extent. But I think what should be noticed is, guys, like we have coaches and players for a reason. I think to think of you as like a head coach of a sports team is the best analogy I could think of, right? It's like you have a system and it's either you buy in or you get out, right? And I think that's where we're currently at. And it's like we have a plan. We will hope to expand upon it and show you the roadmap and be able to say this is where we want to be, buy in, and we can be so successful as long as we have players fill in the roles that we need to fill in, right? You have a career, you have a personal life, you have your own Halo improvement, and you have other players to worry about, and that's a lot of commitment. And the idea that like that you're not going to sit there and half-ass anything, so it has to be whole-assed, and we want to make sure that we have enough resources available to whole-ass what needs to be whole-assed. Not to say the word ass.
No,
as much as
but I mean, it is what it is, man. That's right.
That's where I'm at, right? It's like I have my personal development that I need to work on, right? I'm trying to become a better caster. I'm trying to work and become better in this scene. I have school to worry about. I have a future career to worry about, and I'd love to do more for SVP. And I think I could if I had people there to give me the resources to make it easy for me to go in and provide the execution I believe whatever project I touch needs. Because that's where I'm at, is that I don't want to run a tournament if I don't think it's going to be the best run tournament on Twitch, where it's going to run smoothly, it's going to be on time, it's going to look good, it's going to sound good, and that we're going to have a good time. And that everyone that participates in it can say, yeah, I participated in that, and it was the best time that I had this weekend. And I think that's where we stand, is that we always go quality over quantity. We're not going to sit here and try to run event after event after event to keep you guys occupied and to keep you engaged. We want to have an event every so often, but we need to make sure that it's run at the best possible quality. And that's where we think you players can come in and like help us, is that you can set the groundwork for us to make sure everything is executed to the expectation that we think everything that SVP does. Because we are, I believe still that we are the gold standard of grassroots organizers when it comes to doing anything, because we do it so well, and we have probably the best player retention out of any organization. Although we don't have a huge pool of players as other organizations do, I believe every single player in our community calls themselves an SVP player first out of everything else. And I think that's where
there's no community that has been running as long as we have, as tight knit as we have been, and as close with one another as we've been over the last 3 years. Like I just feel pretty confident that there's not another community out there that has that. And no doubt that there's great communities in the Halo community that do really, really great things. Greater Toronto Halo probably the biggest, most popular Halo community that there is in the Halo community. You know, they do some really special stuff. They have a really wide reach. They what they do, like what they set out to do, and like running those tournaments and getting those players from different backgrounds to play together and like have those unique experiences. They do that extremely well. There's no doubt. You know, but it's different. Like the way that they have a community is different than how our community looks. The level of investment from members of that would say that they're a part of the greater Toronto Halo community like looks different from what it means to say that you're a part of like the Spartan 5 program. Like that level of investment is different. And the way that you feel personally about your program mates is differently. It's just fundamentally different from the way that any two members of another Halo community are going to feel. When we show up, like DreamHack Atlanta 2018, and we all get together and we all show up, we're family. We're family in that house, right? We rent out our Airbnb, and we're even if it's the first time that we're like meeting everyone else that we're hanging out with, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like we're seeing people that we've known for years. It feels like we're hanging out with family, right? And I don't think that there's another community that has that and has that positive culture through and through so deeply and has that love and that feeling, right? I think that's something that we've done really well.
And I think it's important to know
we're
that,
really fortunate to have.
That's by design though, you know, and it's not to. It takes a lot to keep that ship running, right? We have to make sure everything stays to our standard. We have to make sure that like we have a set community guideline to like what we expect of players, what we expect of coaches, what we expect when you're a part of
the
SvP.
way we lose that is when we stop caring.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're sitting, is that we can't stop caring, and that's where I think you felt the need that hey, it's like if I don't delegate at this point, it feels as if you're not caring anymore because
I'm not able to efficiently do the things that I want to focus on and the ways that we could be better and the specific tasks that only I can lead us to and perform myself. Like I can't do those things regularly if I have to focus on this, that, and the other thing that other people are able to do without too much investment, right? I think that conversation, yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's a great time to start talking about what we actually do need of players in the community.
So in general, and I think like this is the overall difference in terms of where we're at now and where we're trying to go. And I think that the easiest way that that I could possibly explain it was explained by Stu in that conversation that I was talking about. She was a big fan of analogies, if you don't know. So the way that Stu analogized this is he basically said that the way that we've kind of settled in now is that it's a little more social right now. It's kind of like a bar, right? It's a bar. It has its regulars. You know, the people who are a part of that community are actually like it's tight knit. Like it's not just like any old bar, but it's a bar with a tight knit community. They're there shared, you know, and they share some level of goal, right? There's some level of like loose connection there, overarching that brings those people there specifically. And it's good. Like it's a good, fun, social environment, and things are good, right? Except that bar, like that social atmosphere and like that culture, all of that is important to me, but it's still missing something. What I think I want in spirit is a little closer to what I have training, like at my mixed martial arts gym, right? Like you still get that social connection, you still get that camaraderie with your teammates. But at the end of the day, like it's also about you being in there and being better than yourself. It's about being better than you were yesterday. It's about helping your teammates do the same. You're there on a mission with those people together. It's not there like kind of aimless. It's not there casually. It's about being there and being better together. And there's sometimes there are going to be times where you're going to have to slow down and you're not going to be able to show up as much. But long term, it's about being there, right? It's about that consistency over time. It's about that improvement over time. It's about that shared mission and pushing each other to be better and pushing yourself to be better. And I don't think that we're there as much as I want us to be there and as much as I think we could be there. And I think that if we're able to find more of that, we're going to see greater player growth out of the players that we have. I think we're going to see greater player satisfaction out of the players that we have. I think that the coaches are going to be more satisfied about seeing our players grow and perform and become like other like pillar members of the Halo community. We want that, right? But we need to be more efficient. We need to be more purposeful about how we do things. We need to be more intentional about the people that are in the program and what their goals are and how they're approaching their growth, right? And it's really difficult to think about where we've been and think about all the wonderful people in the program, and like there are going to be people who are in the program right now who aren't going to fit that mold, who aren't going to be willing to push themselves like that. And I'm not saying that they need to drop everything that they're doing and quit their careers like to sweat and like become like an Onyx Halo player. I'm not saying that. But it's just about doing what you can with your time on the sticks. It's about being intentional with your time on the sticks and doing what you can. It's about that commitment over time and doing what you can do, right? So I think that sorting that out is going to be an essential part of how we do, how we go about our business, and like where we walk that line between somebody who is more casual and less interested in that personal growth and just wants that cool community and like wants those people to play with. And even if they do like feel that they want to get better over time, like there are people who say that and they're willing to do something about it, and there's some people who want that for themselves but aren't willing to put in that time, right? And I think that most of the players in the program kind of have a feeling for like which one of those that they are.
Right. I was gonna say I think it's gonna be up to where we need to reevaluate what a coach is in the sense of what Spartan 5 program, what a player is. Because
Sure.
for a long time, it's been players reach out to coaches and we do a film review here or there. I think it needs to be more strict. We need to have more defined goals for what each player wants in their career. And we need to be providing the best possible resources for them to efficiently reach those goals.
Definitely.
And I think that's where we lack as coaches right now is when it comes to resource management and what we can provide to the players. We have our specialized niches and we do what we do well, but there's no set way that we have for each individual player to get better. And I think that's something that you're wanting to tackle in the future.
A streamlined process. We need a curriculum that allows a player to more clearly see where they're at, what skills they need to succeed at a higher level, and it gives them a loose understanding of where they're at and where they need to go. And that means that they can be more efficient about how they're practicing. They could be more efficient about the conversations that they're having with the coaches when they need to ask them and evaluate where they're at. If we're doing like twice or three times a year, if we're having meetings with these players to establish short and long-term goals, we're making sure that they're moving where they need to move. We're ensuring that they're practicing how they need to practice. We ensure that they're playing with the people that they need to be playing with to make that growth. Like we can be a lot more purposeful about that. And for us to get more out of coaching, if we're meeting, 2 or 3 times a year with these players, it makes it a lot more efficient for the reasons that I mentioned. If we are creating better resources together, whether it's like videos or documents or whatever, when we do those things, that's a force multiplier. We're taking like a conversation that we could all have individually with like 10 separate players at 10 different times. We're having that conversation once. We're making like a document and like or something, some sort of like video about it that gives you the high level points about what you need to know. And then instead of having to get with a player at some time that works best for both people and then meeting with them for an hour and a half and going over some film, to give them the same takeaways that is going to happen in another meeting with a different player and a different coach at a different time, like, why take that extra hour and a half when we could reference them? The work and discussions that we would be telling them anyways in a more condensed, easier to understand, more like palatable version, right? There's room here to be more efficient with our time and like see that quicker like player growth and just to like work smarter instead of working harder, right? And because we haven't had the time to like sit down and work on our processes and change how we do things, we've effectively been working harder to get less. So if we take this time now to temporarily work harder, but set ourselves up for success to work smarter, we're going to be a lot better off. We're going to be able to help a lot more players. We're going to be able to help them get more. It's going to be easier for them. Like scheduling is going to be less of an issue for us to all get on the same page scheduling wise. So I think that we're going to see a lot of really, really good things about what we want for the program if we're able to do that successfully. That's a goal.
Right. And just to expand, I think when we had that earlier analogy of you being like a head coach, I think that's where that sits, is that we need to have a shared game plan. And that game plan needs to be accessible to every coach. It's like when you have a football team, the head coach has a plan for each week. And it's up to those assistant coaches, the wide receivers coach, to get the wide receivers where they need to be, the defensive coordinator to make sure that we're scheming right for the opportunity that's going on. And I think that's where we've been severely lacking in the last couple of years, is that players have relations to individual coaches, and that coach knows what that player needs, but not every single coach knows what that player needs to succeed.
Yes. So I think that we could be working smarter and definitely be doing a better job of that. That's part of what we're looking to rectify with the changes that we're going to be making.
Right. And I'm excited for it, right? And I think this is where we get to the point where we're going to recognize our talents, we're going to polish those talents, and we're going to make it to the point where your instinct is just there. And we want that to be, we want everyone to be as polished as they possibly can be. We want you to be the best extension of yourself, whether it be in person, in your real life, or whether it be on the sticks, right? And I think that's what what would you call it in a company?
Mission statement.
Yeah, that's our mission statement, right?
Our
objective.
That's our bottom line, man. That's our bottom line. We want you guys to be able to be better teammates and players on the sticks, and then take that ability to be self-aware and work on your game and see what you're doing and understand like how you want to improve, what you want to do differently, how to get better. Take that into your life, right? And the best players, like some of the most memorable players that we have in this community, part of the reason that some of them aren't around right now is because we have shown them how to do that, and they've looked at their life and they're like, hey, I got a lot of life shit I got to sort out, and I understand this now, and I understand how to go about that now. Like Lexi, Space Christ, a lot of you guys know him. Those of you that know him probably love him. One of my favorites of all time. Lexi he had a lot of shit going on in his life prior to the program, and like we helped him get a little bit better at Halo, but like once we got those gears turning in his head about how to grow as a player and a teammate and be more aware of like what you're doing and how to change your circumstances and get like empowering them to do that, he took that and he carried that over into the rest of his life, and he's like changing his life in a really, really positive way right now. Archimedes, same thing. He's the exact same way, same exact situation. He's taking that stuff and he's working on life right now. And I think that I would prefer that you guys do that and have that stuff sorted before I want you to be a good Halo player. But then once you have the extra room in your life to like come back here and want to compete and want to get better, then not only is that like you representing yourself and like your person in the community, but all of the players and coaches of the program, they are extensions of me. As the head of the program, you are extensions of me. And like I need to feel confident that you guys like are the best that you can be and that you're going to be upstanding members of the Halo community. Because if you're associated with the Spartan 5 program, you're associated with me, and like your reputation is like combined with my reputation. That's important to me. So I'm not going to half-ass like who's in the program and like what I expect of them, because that's important to me.
The road to success, it doesn't change whether we're talking about Halo or we're talking about real life. It applies just across the board, and that's where we try to do our best, is to build a roadmap for you to see yourself successful. And the coaches have their own roadmap that they're trying to follow, and I think that's why we're to the point where we needed the changes that we're going to implement, and that we're going to be going as best as we can to create a future that we see as enriching and to help us later on, because Halo is not going to be our end all, right? We're going to have things 20 years from now, and the question is did we lay the groundwork now to be where we want to be in 20 years? And that's the kind of stuff that we need to be thinking of as a community, is not just where we want to be in a year Halo wise, whether you want to be competing in Infinite. It's what do you want for yourself 20 years down the road, and how can you help yourself now to achieve those goals?
Not even in relation to the program and like wondering what the program's going to do in 20 years, but just about that self-improvement.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we've got that self-improvement channel all about promoting us asking ourselves those questions and about pushing ourselves to be better every day. That's what it's about. Gary, we have like 10 minutes before I want to wrap up, and we're supposed to play those Coach 8, so I'm just going to roll through quick with some specific things that are listed at the top of the SvP2 planning channel.
Okay, let's go for it.
Let's see. So I'm going to talk about a list of roles that we'll need help with. I'll still continue to send out everyone announcements asking for people to help with those things. And I feel like progress in those areas and having people to handle those things is non-negotiable. If we're not able to get people to fill what we need done out of the remaining players and members of the community, then we'll have to have a serious discussion about that and how we'll have to look at those roles, see the impact that they'd be able to provide. And there's some of those things that are going to be non-negotiable. We're going to need help with them to continue to do what we do. So that's important. Still got to work on the website. It looks pretty good right now. I think it could look a lot better on mobile. That doesn't format naturally as well as we'd like it to. So I still have to spend some time on that and search engine optimization about it showing earlier in the Google search results, making it easier for people to find us.
That's the thing. I mean, if anyone's watching right now and you have experience in SEO, reach out.
No, I mean, we got a pretty good handle on that.
I was just gonna say, if you hear us say
anything
and you have experience in what we're talking about, that's why we're talking about.
Yes.
Find yourself and apply yourself in the most efficient way possible. If we talk about something that you know how to do, I think it's an expectation from us that we see you guys try to help in those regards.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We have to work on our social media presence, getting those used a little more regularly. I think that that's relatively achievable by planning a bunch of posts ahead of time and then having a couple of people who are designated to help us post those things somewhat regularly. So that's good. We have more graphics work to get done. We have to work on our curriculum. Basically, I think what I'm trying to look for is I want to get together with the coaches and the players, and in the same way that a proper martial arts system has like a belt system, I want to have an understanding of what it means to be a rookie player, what it means to be like a more middle level player, what it means to be a higher level player, what skills are involved with performing optimally at those different levels. Sometimes those skills are going to be have a really wide range in how well you could do them. So we're going to try and make it clearer with that curriculum about we want the players to be able to look at that list and then be able to more effectively evaluate where they are and what they need to do to get to where they want to go.
Right, and there's
plenty of talk about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's plenty of ways to go about that. I think it's almost like we're gonna build like a report card for you, and we're gonna have those areas where it's like, this is where we think you are now, and this is what you need to do to get to where you should be.
Yeah, so we need to do that to be more efficient, get more out of our time. A code of conduct is less for like our own conduct in the community, like people conduct themselves plenty fine in the community. I'm not really concerned about that, but it's important for people who are not in the Spartan 5 program to know what we're about. So I think that's important for us. Talking about the expectations for the players, I mean, that's important to me. We need to have that shared understanding of our mission and where we want to go. We need to be on the same page as players and coaches about the level of investment that needs to be there. Like I said, it's not an unreasonable level of investment. It's just about doing what you can with your time that you have. So talking about that, things like player evals, deciding how many times a year we want to do that, whether it needs to be on a rotating basis, who's going to be involved with that in terms of a coaching perspective, what we need to ask and evaluate. Need to talk about that further and do that more regularly down the road. Got to revamp the Discord, maybe get some new bots, think about our channel usage, think about how it's structured. For some of and this is something we'll maybe talk about on the next podcast because I think that it warrants a longer discussion. What do we do with those people who are players in the community that we really, really like, but maybe aren't going to fit in that more serious regimented Spartan 5 program? Do we need to have like a second Discord community where maybe we can be a little more open and invite other people in the Halo community that we actually really like, but didn't serve as a coach or a player before? Like now that would open us up to invite some of those people in, as well as retain our relationships with some of those people in the program right now who maybe don't have that availability or extra like room in their life to be more serious about their time on the sticks. So we need to talk about how we want to handle that, whether we want to do like a second Discord or something like that. So do that, new resources, functionalities. We could probably integrate our applications and Google Forms with Discord. There's like ways to do that. So we need to talk about doing that. when the first LAN comes around, we'll have to talk about that and planning that. As far as some roles that we will be needing help with down the road, I have these listed as well. We're going to need to have people who maintain the curriculum, and like as the meta changes in the new game, they're going to be parts of that curriculum that were specific to the meta of the game at a particular time, and that's going to change. So we need someone who's holding us accountable to look at that curriculum and have us ask those questions about, is this still up to date? Does this still reflect what we feel as a coaching staff is important for the players to have to succeed at different levels? That's important. We maybe could do, get better in like investment in the community if we have like rotational topic channels. Like that's just kind of like a quality of life thing. Maybe it would belong in the more casual server. If we have a second server, we could have somebody manage something like that. We could have somebody be responsible for applications, and making sure that we see to it that those applications are handled in a prompt manner, making sure that Gary and myself are working with those people and keeping us accountable for keeping those applicants moving through the process at a rate that is reasonable. I mentioned social media assistance, clips and screenshots. This is something that I had announced previously, and I haven't really gotten any serious hits on it. I think Xavier offered, but he's going to need more help. I want people to basically, I'm looking to scan clips and screenshots maybe once a week and file certain links away for screenshots that are either funny or they're like coaching related or they're just like montage worthy clips. Because when we want to up our video production and like do things with our social media or show other people who we are or put new things on the website, it's going to be great to have clips to reference in order to make those videos happen. Like that content, being able to make that content accessible and making sure that we have it at our fingertips is something that would be really, really useful for us and for our big picture, right? So we need people who are responsible for helping us keep that close to us.
I'm going to jump in because this is more my wheelhouse. This is something that, guys, I think is going to be one of the most important things for us to succeed as in our outreach, is to make sure that we have clips that are organized and easily accessible to the content creators that will be coming, the content creation that will be coming from SpartanVProgram Program. And as you said, it's going to be easier as it goes along, but we need bodies, and a lot of them, for the start to go and get through the backlog, so then we can have one or two dedicated people that'll be there every week to do it once a week. But we need to get through the backlog. So if there's something, this isn't like, you don't have to be specially qualified. All you have to do is watch a 30-second clip, determine where it goes, file it away. And I think this is something where we should be, it should be something that we can get done easy. So I want to see volunteers for that, because we can do a lot of cool things. We can do a lot of cool things. Yeah. We can do a lot of cool things if we get that done. And I think that should be one of the priorities. If you guys are trying to help the community, that's a great way to do it.
And I mentioned specific events, getting people in charge of like running specific events and making sure that they're happening with somewhat regularity. So doing eights, once or twice a month regularly, like member only eights. If we had people responsible for scheduling those, scheduling film review sessions, open practices with the coaches, working on specific game types, map combinations, specific skills, that'd be really great to do every couple of weeks. And it wouldn't take a lot of work that's an example, right? Where we can have one person focus on that. They get one coach to agree to talk on one particular topic every 2 weeks. Each coach is only going to have to contribute something once every couple of months, which isn't crazy for them. The player who's overseeing who's facilitating those open practices, they only have to do that once every couple of weeks. And that's just as simple as a DM and trying to schedule a time and a place and announcing it. That's easy enough. Coordinating office hours with the coaches. Fight nights, we have people helping us coordinate the podcast. Shout out to Hazawk and Hunter helping us out with that. Scheduling coach eights, making sure that we are working on our game with one another, playing together, sharpening our skills. I mentioned long time no see sessions, which is basically just like trying to prompt players to play with people that they haven't played with in a while. I think that could be a fun thing to do regularly. Customs nights that aren't necessarily sweaty and are just fun. That's a good community engagement thing. And like getting one person to do one of these things is not asking you guys a lot. It's very easy to do. And once you understand your like job and you only have to do it like every couple of weeks or once a month, I'm really not asking you guys for a lot. I always said that the SpartanVProgram program is always going to be like a free thing. I'm never going to charge people for it. I don't want people to like miss out on an opportunity when they just because of like a financial obligation. But I don't think that I'm asking for that much to ask people to contribute an extra 15 or 30 minutes that they would have spent on the sticks once every couple of weeks or once a month in order to really have a big impact on the quality of the program and what we do, community engagement, this, that, and the other thing, whatever, player growth. We get a lot out of that time, and we need people to be invested and be a part of that. We need people to pitch in. I'm not going to ask you guys to pay any money to continue to be here, but I need people to pitch in order for us to continue doing what we're doing and be better.
Right. I think that's something to talk about for just a second before we go. We'd never, not once ever talked about monetizing this or asking anyone for money, but we do have the expectation that if you are a part of our, that the way that you do pay in is that you put an effort to help the community be successful. So that's, it starts with the little things, having your @everyone tags on so you're up to date with what's going on in the community. That's our baseline expectation of anyone that's in the Discord. And I think as we approach SvP2, those baseline expectations that we expect from players might be shifting up a gear. And it's not going to be insane, right? Like you said, it's only going to be something that's going to be 15 minutes that you do once, maybe twice, once or bi-weekly. We're not expecting a lot, but we are expecting you to be contributing members to the community.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that, it's getting to be time. We don't want to, be too long in the tooth with this. I think for some of the other topics that we didn't get to touch on, we can, bring this back. Zuck and Hunter are going to work with us to make sure that we come back at a regular basis and do this every so often. We go through phases of doing the podcast for, a few months at a time. We'll do it regularly and then we'll stop for a while and then we'll start and we'll stop. Like, it's not important for us to have to do this all the time, all year round. But there are going to be phases in the program where this is very important, and it's important for us to talk about the things that we need to talk about. And as we're planning and as we're like doing these things and setting ourselves up for success in the future, these discussions are going to be important for us to have. And it's important to have the people in the community, in the program, on board with what's going on, and for you guys to be in the know with what's going on. So at least for the foreseeable future, it's important for us to stay on this. And Zuck and Hunter are going to be helping us stay accountable on that. So huge.
Big shout out to those two guys. They definitely made the podcasting
also
thing a lot easier for today.
Big shout out to Noodle, who has taken the only other job that we've offered up as well, which is updating the upcoming events regularly.
And he's done a great job at it.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Perfect. It's something that, didn't take me a ton of time month to month, but for me to not have to think about it month to month, it just gives me that much more room to think about the other things that need to get done. So huge shout out to Noodle for helping us out.
Awesome.
So
I think with that said,
getting ready to call it there.
Yeah, with that said, guys, we're gonna have a Coach 8 session now, basically, right after this podcast ends. So if you are able to play, be ready to play. We'll have that organized, and if you're a player looking to improve, maybe watch one of these streams, and I'm sure we're gonna be going over plenty of things to help you improve. And it's always good to be just learning, and watching is a really great way to learn.
I got some family stuff going on, so I won't be able to be there as expected. So Gary is going to facilitate Coach 8's. Where it's important for us to get Voodoo in there specifically. He's a player for us, but he has done really well in what we've seen him do so far. So it's important for us to get him some more difficult reps with some higher level players. Crusher and Eli volunteered tonight, so if we don't have enough room, if we don't have enough coaches to fill in the roster, they're going to get some good reps in. I see Cindy typing, Joe typing as well, so they are also on deck. So we'll see what's going on there, but Gary's going to run that. Thanks for hanging out for you guys in chat. I know that we weren't really reading chat, but if you need to follow up with us at all, just send us a DM.
Yeah, this will also be on YouTube. So also, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube, go subscribe to it. We're going to have more stuff happening there in the future. That's why we're having people organize the clips. The podcasts are always going to be there.
Gary, I got to go, but I'm going to let you wrap this up.
I'm going to wrap up.
All right, thanks, brother.
Thanks for doing this with me.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
But yeah, guys, YouTube, really important. We're going to try to get our Twitter back. Kind of a lapse on our end. But when it comes to social outreach, we're trying to be much more engaged. And we need that help from you guys. So once again, the jobs that we posted, really important that we have you guys going there, signing up for those jobs so we can make SVP as successful as it's been for the last couple of years. And if you have any specific questions or any ideas on what you think you can provide for the community, reach out to me and Nico. We'll take a look. We'll make sure that we find a spot for you. Because if there's something that you think you can do that doesn't quite line up with what we laid out today, I'm sure it's a good idea. And we definitely want to keep those ideas on deck. And like I said, I think we had a great podcast today. And we hope to keep this level of dedication to our community for the next couple of years.